Come on, man. Go for it, dude.
It's Friday! Friday! Friday!
It is, last time I checked, and so that means it is a Freestyle Friday here in SDH AM. John, hear you there. We're going to do a lot of talking this morning. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. There's some news to get into, and it's the news about franchises, and it's not good news. So we got to get into Sheffield Wednesday, and we'll keep you up to date there. Fans aren't happy, understandably so. Don't know what the extent's going to be when it comes to them playing this weekend, because it's supposed to be the kickoff of the season this weekend in the EFL Championship. And then Filippo Clare, who we're used to seeing at a place like Yosemite Football, is letting us know about some other teams that are in trouble that we got to keep an eye on, and owners that are continued to allowed to be in positions to own clubs after they've ruined previous clubs. So we'll get into that this morning. I guess that's the newsy part of the show. Obviously, we got all the previews and stuff to get into with Major League Soccer, and you never know who's going to drop by and let us know what's going on in their collective brains when it comes to anything and everything. Atlanta is leaving later this morning. Well, not this morning. Early this afternoon, middle of the afternoon. They're going to head to Montreal to take on CF Montreal and their friend Efren Morales. If you are a person of the TikToks, I would look at Efra's TikTok, and he did about a minute 10, minute 15 about what it's like to be traded. So it was an interesting dive into what it's like to be traded from a club you're playing, and he pieced it together with the video that was shot by friends and family and things like that. And so it pieced it all together, and now he's in Montreal, but he kind of goes through what it's like to be traded. And it was a bit of an interesting glimpse. So if you have the TikToks or access to the TikToks, then I would recommend catching up with Efra before our friend Efren Morales plays Atlanta United. That was not planned, by the way. So we'll keep an eye on everything Major League Soccer. We'll go through everything that happened in Leagues Cup last night. And we now know who the final 8 are, and the matchup. One matchup in particular is pretty tasty. But we'll get into what happened last night, get you ready for this evening, all the things as we get ready for the weekend back in Major League Soccer after having time in the phase 1 of Leagues Cup. And so we'll keep an eye on all of that. So there's plenty of news to get into, plenty of stuff to get into, plenty of things. And so whatever's also on your mind this morning as well. Morning, Abby. And we'll walk through this Friday together as we get ready for the weekend. Programming note, 6:30 tonight on the network, Atlanta United 2 and Toronto FC 2. And this is another matchup where the twos are going to be a little short-handed. Javi Armas out because of yellow card accumulation. Moises Tablante out attending to a personal matter. And so no Moises Tablante on the wing, no Javi Armas directing traffic. So it will be interesting to see what it looks like for Atlanta United 2, Morning Lokeville, and as they go up against TFC 2. That matchup in particular in MLS Next Pro has, and we've talked about it with the twos, there are a lot of implications when it comes to Atlanta United 2 and matches in hand, as they're chasing after a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference in MLS Next Pro. Right now, just to give you an idea, 6:30 pregame, I'll have the call for you, 7:03 kick from York University and York Lions Stadium in the suburbs of the T-Dot. Right now, it is Red Bulls 2, Union 2, and that one is going to be a heavyweight battle. Red Bulls 2, Union 2, both at 42 points. Red Bulls have 2 more wins. Fire at 36, Huntsville City Football Club at 35, Revs 2 at 33, and they have the same number of wins as Chattanooga. Revs 2 have 2 more matches in hand, and they've also got a superior goal difference. TFC 2 right now is at 28 points. They are 7th in the table. They have 1 more win than NYCFC. So that's the playoff bar in the Eastern Conference right there. Right there. That's your Eastern Conference look of the playoffs as they sit. A lot of folks have played 20. Some folks have played 18. Core are at 27, and this is where the logjam starts. 7 through 12, so that's 6 teams separated by 2 points. Core at 27, OCB at 26, Crown Legacy 26, FC Cincinnati at 26. But OCB has 3 more wins. Crown Legacy has only won 5 of 20. FC Cincinnati 2 has won 4 of 19. But they win like all the shootouts they're in to get that extra point. Inter Miami, so Messi and Friends 2 at 21 points, 20 matches played. Atlanta United 2 at 19. So the matches in hand they need to win to get back into this gaggle that is the 6 teams that are separated by 2 points. They would be the 7th team, and they would be separated by 3 if they would win out with the 2 that they have in hand. So Atlanta traveling up. Atlanta United 2 traveling up to take on Toronto FC 2 tonight, 6:30 pregame, and you'll hear from Ronan Wynn and interim head coach Jose Silva in the pregame show, and we'll get you through all the action on soccerdownhere.net and also on I'm blanking out, soccerdownhere.net and our Mixler channel, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. So you'll have all of that tonight. And then Atlanta United and Montreal, CF Montreal, that is tomorrow. And you'll hear the pregame show, 7:40 kick. So 6:30 Five Stripes Countdown with Abe and Maddie. You'll have you'll have kickoff with Mike and Jason, 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app. And then you'll have the full-time report with Abe and Maddie after the fact. And that should take you to about, about 11 o'clock? So that's tomorrow. So the 2's tonight on our network, on our Mixler channel, and at soccerdownhere.net. You go to the Listen tab, and then the channels that we have active, they'll let you know when there's something either new or live. There'll be like a pulsating red light, I think is how it works. So you got that as a part of all of everything there this morning with the 2's and with all of the other activity that is involving Atlanta United. So Atlanta United 2. Those are going to be attached to all the things coming up in just a little bit. Okay. Let me get through opening kickoff, and then we'll do the promos. And like I said, I don't know who's going to be here this morning. We'll see if anybody joins us this morning. We put out the bat signal to a couple of folks to see if they're bored, and they might be in an airport somewhere. So we'll see if anybody wants to drop by this morning to break down what's going on. But like I said, we have a lot to talk about. We got Leagues Cup to get into. We've got last night and the future to get into. We got all the MLS matches. We got juice boxes, weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. And then the newsy stuff. And like I said, the newsy stuff, there's a lot of transfer stuff going on still because the transfer window overseas ends on September 1st. So there's a lot of news this morning involving transfers. There's news on this side of the Atlantic involving an individual that might be heading to Greece. And there are some folks that are not happy that terms of transfers have gotten out. And they're threatening legal action over the release of said information. And it has to do with an individual who's not happy with MLS because apparently folks in MLS like to lose, and he's not okay with that. Morning, Alex. Morning, Pars. We will see. I guess, Lokeville, let's put it this way. We will add more context to John Texter. John Texter still owes Atlanta United $30 million. Botafogo is still picking up players. And they are able to do that because with all of the stuff going on where the legal system is wagging its tail and wagging its index finger at John Texter because you are in an appeals process, you can still do stuff. I don't know if you were to just say, lose your appeal. Sorry, morning multivitamin. If you were to lose your appeal, I don't know if that means you got to send everybody back. I don't think so. But Botafogo is still picking up players and still able to do it with a transfer ban that's 3 windows long. I don't know who is number one when it comes to serving John Texter and his debtors. We should, at some point today, I guess this is the update, kind of sort of John Texter. Cass is supposed to hear the Crystal Palace suit appeal today. And Crystal Palace is very confident about the decision being reversed. So we'll get into that, but just know that I will relink the MCO, the multi-club update that was given about the relationship that apparently is going to go down with John Texter and Evangelinas Marinakis of Nottingham Forest and his group. But there's some news there. They're kind of denying some stuff. They're denying some things, but they're saying, yeah, there's some other stuff going on and all of that. So we'll get into the multi-club machinations. We'll get into that too. Christopher Abel, welcome back. Bigger question is, why the heck would any club be willing to sell a player to Botafogo? And that's another element in all of this. I guess we kind of evolved into opening kickoff, and it's all about John Texter. So the larger question, Christopher's philosophical question here: why would you want to do business with Botafogo? The thing is, I don't know who gets paid and who ain't getting paid. You know what I mean? It's like if Atlanta United, as an example, is owed $30 million. Botafogo sells a player for 10, and folks are inbound, outbound, what have you. If Botafogo is selling, I think that, they're more than happy to take the money. The whole buying thing for me would be where I would be raising the people's eyebrow. I'm like, really? You want to do that with all of the things that are currently going on? You want to do that kind of business? You sure about that? So that to me, the inbound, I'm sure Botafogo is more than happy to take people's money. And, check, pay that man his money, that kind of stuff. They're happy to take other people. They're happy to send players along because they get money in return. But the idea of actually paying, it's like, yeah, we'll take him. And this is the one thing that this is the information that we're kind of chasing more than anything else. In a process like this, how is it that players are sent along and they're sent to their new gig and they're allowed to function if a team has not paid a bill? Let's take Thiago as an example. So Thiago goes to Botafogo. Sure. Yeah, we'll pay you. We'll do the installment thing. Oh, we messed up the installments, and we know the saga from there. But if you're going down the road of, okay, you owe us money, but I've got the player, what propels me to pay you if I've got the player? If I'm getting all the labor that I need done, and you've already sent him, and it's like countries that are, countries and long flights that are separating the two of us, and the only thing that would be joining us would be like Microsoft Teams. What is to prevent me, short of a ruling from a governing body, of either sending the player back, having to send the player back. Because, I mean, think about it. Think about this. In all of this discussion, Thiago Almada specifically, Thiago goes to Botafogo. Oh, simulated him, you're going to get blocked and reported. In all of this, involving just Thiago Almada as an example, you had him go to Botafogo and you had him go to Lyon. Yes, it's a bot. Come on now. And so you had him play for more than one team in your group. And there was no, it still happened. There was no repercussion. There was no, hey, what's going on? I mean, I imagine, and I am not in these I am not in these boardrooms for these deals, so I don't know literally how this works. But you end up with Thiago playing at Lyon. You end up with Thiago playing at Botafogo, scoring in international European competition, scores in European competition. And you end up with Atlanta United still owed an ish ton of money. Hey, you haven't paid us. Oh, I'll pay you. And then you get into the whole legal thing. And this is where I think it probably gets gummed up, is that you have the legal ramifications of the entire deal. It's like, well, since this is tied up in something akin to a court system, that you can't have any kind of action. There is a binding contract which is in dispute. Therefore, if you tie it up into legal knots, the team that is the business that is aggrieved cannot reclaim their asset. I think that's how this works. That would be the best way that I could. And this is, and Christopher, to your point, once again, Christopher, if and when they lose the appeal, they need to be relegated and banned from international competition for a couple of years. We need to discourage the behavior. I don't think you should punish the player by not allowing him to play. I don't want to see Almada's career messed up, but you should absolutely come down hard on the club. Right now, they have a planned 3-window transfer ban because of the financial shenanigans that are going on. But because there is a legal process, you can't act on it. And the fact that Thiago has been sold on, then he is at the next stage in his career. Once again, you're sold on. Now what? Now you hope that ATLUTD, that he is crushing it. And I am wondering, I legitimately am wondering. So Thiago Almada is sold to Atletico de Madrid. So let me do the okay. If I could spell the word transfer this morning, I think it'd be doing okay. Okay, so Thiago Almada transfer, you put that in. So July 15, so all 3 weeks ago. 21 million. Okay. Right. So, and I love how this is phrased. And once again, this is from our friends at The Athletic, Guillermo Rye and Colin Miller. Atletico signed Thiago Almada, so 3 weeks ago. Second half of the season on loan at Lyon, scored twice in 20 before returning to Botafogo. 5-year deal. He's at Atleti until 2030. Botafogo signed Almada in a $21 million deal, June of 2024. Deal potentially reaching up to $30 million if conditions for additional payments are met. Of course, they'd have to be met. MLS record transfer. So Almada joins from Vélez for 16, newcomer of the year, all that kind of stuff. 4 goals in 10 appearances for Argentina. Botafogo won Serie A, first ever Copa Libertadores while he was there. And they got Johnny from Real Betis. And so you're looking at $30 million. Thiago Almada goes Botafogo, Lyon, because it's within the chain, the multi-club model. Back to Botafogo, sold by Botafogo to Atletico de Madrid. Good for Thiago Almada. Fantastic. Love this. But because the there is a sell-on fee that was attached to all of this in the initial transfer. Like I said, I want to say it was upward. I think it was like 15%, something like that. So then you get to this stage where, okay, this was an immediate transaction. This was a transaction that happened. We know this did. We know that Thiago Almada is at Atletico de Madrid because he posed with the jersey and he's kissing the crest. We know that deal went down. So you're looking at $4 million. Say, let's put that number out there. Where that $4 million is concerned, like I said, I think you're now looking at 30 basically that is owed by Eagle to AMBSC, Atlanta United, Major League Soccer, however you want to phrase it. Because once again, all the players are under the window of being a Major League Soccer property. So Atlanta United at the end of the day is owed $30 million. But because everything is in the courts or in the wave of legal action, FIFA said, look, you owe the man. That judgment came out. FIFA said you owe the man. But you have the right to an appeal. And I get it. The appeals process needs to be truncated somewhat. Morning robes. But because you are in the appeals process, you're kind of stuck in economic limbo on all these kinds of things. And you end up with the issue here. But what I would be intrigued over is the sell-on fee that was attached to Thiago Almada by Atlanta United, and now that he's been moved on to Atletico de Madrid. Does that $4 million-ish supersede anything and everything and go to the front of the line as something that needs to be claimed and sent? I'm sure that Botafogo would sit there, or Eagle would sit there and say, well, since one thing is under legal consideration, all things are under legal consideration, and so this would fall under that large umbrella of ain't nothing been decided yet in the courts, so it ain't happening. And by the way, looking back into my Instagram account, and I probably should circle back on this. Sliding down, I'm trying to see. Sent an attachment a week ago. July 25th. That's more than a week ago. But yeah, July 25th. Right now we are on 30 days, has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. We are at the 2-week mark of having reached out to John Texter via Instagram and heard absolutely nothing. I want him on the show. I've told him I'll blow the whole thing out. We'll blow the whole thing out. You can show up anytime. But I wonder, outside of who wrote the Book of Love, I wonder if that $4 million in theory is the sell-on fee. If the sell-on fee would go to the front of the line as something that needs to be sent to Atlanta United. But like I said, I would imagine that Eagle Football Holdings says in for one, in for all transactions attached to Thiago Almada, since most of them are under summary judgment by FIFA anyway. Most of the financial judgments that are being discussed are in courts. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for one, in for all. So I would anticipate that the idea of that transfer fee, which is the newest transaction of the bunch. This was something that happened. We know it happened. I would have thought that would have gone to the front of the line as an immediate transaction to be paid, considering it's new. And it's not even really your money. It's Atletico. It's coming from Atleti. And frankly, all of the money from Atleti should be going to Atlanta United, but we don't know. Selfishly, it should be going to Atlanta United because they're owed in the eyes of FIFA now up to $30 million. But selfishly, and who is serving number one, we don't know. That's the one thing we don't know. So maybe we'll ask this guy, because now kids are back in school, and it's one of those things where we get to ask a bunch of questions, and he puts up with all of my nonsense on Friday mornings. And so I will ask the owner mogul about owner mogul questions, and we'll bring him in. Michael Parker's hanging out with us. It has been entirely too long, my friend. Great to see you.
It has been. My apologies, John. It's been a busy summer.
But I mean, but busy summer is a good thing, though.
It's been a great thing. It sure has.
Well,
we just got back from a week in California, so it was lovely.
A week in California. Were there beaches? Was there golf?
There are no golf, but lots of beaches. Yes, but great family vacation. We did San Diego and LA and Joshua Tree. So it was amazing.
San Diego, yes, we know of San Diego. What I was discussing before you came in kind of the opening kickoff setup. I was discussing the Thiago Almada situation. And this is where I wanted to kind of ask the owner mogul about things when it comes to economics and contracts and all of the shenanigans that are there. And I wanted to ask specifically when it comes to like dealing with contracts and players and all these kinds of things. Have you had to deal with so much legal stuff in your life and having to deal with player contracts and legalities and making sure that things get paid and everybody knows the numbers on the bank accounts and everything? What is it like dealing with financials and players and trying to honor agreements? What's that like for a mogul in training and a club that is working its way off the ground?
Well, I think you're asking me from my current
yes,
job.
The current job in relation to you with your current gig, just what it's like to have to deal with all these different machinations and everything. Because I know that folks will sit there. We were specifically discussing the Thiago thing and where their Atlanta United's owed $30 million. And it's being slowed down in the courts. And the guy doesn't want to pay. And it's like, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for Thiago Almada today and all these kinds of things. And I was just trying to kind of pick your brain a little bit about what it's like to be in those rooms and negotiating contracts and honoring deals and being a solid businessman, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. And I think that we take the stance that soccer is a small world, and so relationships are super important. And so, we know that not every negotiation is going to be perfect, and there's always some feelings involved. But can we just be truthful and open and honest about situations? And when an agreement is made, that's the agreement, and there's no backtracking. So yeah, for example, we've got 2 players who we told we'd get green cards, and that's a long process. They might not even still be with us when we finalize these green cards, but it's important for me that we follow through with said commitment, because that's what we said we would. And so that's important. And we haven't obviously dealt with a lot of transfers yet. We're just maybe getting involved with things like that. And so those conversations are always a little bit more tricky, I would assume, as far as when the player's already gone and trying to get sell-on fees and all that stuff. Yeah. But again, I just feel like you do the right thing, and it comes back to you one way or the other, good or bad.
Yeah. And there's always, you mentioned the whole thing about it being a small world, and it's just one of those where your word is your bond. And I mean, there's the handshake and your reputation and those kinds of things. And I would imagine that in your time dealing with the new avocation, that you might come across some dudes that you might sit there and the spidey senses go up and you're like, no, I don't know if we want to deal with that guy. It's like rude awakenings at points from a business perspective, where you sit there and you go, okay, that's a guy that I really don't want us to mess with, because that could take us down a bad path. And especially with finances being what they are these days, you don't want to sit there and look at a dude and go, yeah, I'll do that, and then get jeopardized for going down that road.
For sure. And where it becomes more complicated, though, is so, especially for South American and African players, they could have 3 agents. or 3 people that think they are player's agent. And I just remember hearing things when we signed Barco about how things went down and just the degree of difficulty and just the situation and the people that expected to get paid. And there's just so much. And so I doubt that's unique to Barco, right? And that's where I think it becomes more complicated, is who's getting what out of these deals. Because, for some of these guys, they're setting their life on one player or 2 players. And so this is life-changing money for them, and they don't want to miss it. And they will do anything and everything to make sure they get what they think they deserve.
Uh-huh. And
so it's tough.
Yes. And to Alex's point, using the technical jargon of the back road, no takebacks. Yeah, there's no takesy backsies. There's no takebacks in these kinds of negotiations.
Yeah.
And so right now with Rhode Island FC, sir, I look at the standings. Actually, I was told to ask a question, and you may not have an answer to it, but I was supposed to ask you about the situation with Kano on the roof.
Yeah. He got a red card at halftime of a game a few weeks ago, and he was trying to figure out where he was going to watch the second half of the game, and decided that he wanted the best view in the house, so he went on the roof. And then he was up there with another assistant coach, and then a photograph came of him, and just it got a little bit of notoriety.
Well, when you're on the roof in your new building, is it an easy thing to access? Can you get safely up and down? Can you watch? Or is it like NASCAR and spotters where you're kind of like 19 floors up?
I would not be watching the game from up there personally. I understand it's a good view, but my fear of heights would not allow me to go stand on the roof. But I know that he didn't have a preset location to go, and he wanted to be by himself and not bothered with anyone. So he made the most of it, and it kind of blew up a little bit, which was in a good way.
Yes, understandably so. You're in the playoffs right now. You're in the 8th spot in the Eastern Conference. Your takeaways right now at being 5-9-5 and working the chaos of the East, where it is Louisville, Charleston, and then a lot of you other folks.
Yeah, it sure is. We haven't been thrilled, honestly. It's been a disappointing season so far. If I'm being honest, we had high expectations to really push to get into the top 4, and we just haven't been good enough. And we've had some injuries and that have hurt us, and we're relatively healthy right now, which is good. So hopefully we can make a run here. We did just sign another player, a Jamaican player who was with them for the Gold Cup, who I think he'll help us out in the attack, which is where we're struggling. We're struggling to score goals this year, and so we need to move things in the right direction there. And it's been a struggle, though. So we've got a month left in the window. We will be active and try and right this ship, because it's to your point. There's not a lot of space in between 3 and 12.
Mm-hmm.
So anything can happen, which is a good thing when we're having a season that we're not proud of yet. So we know we can turn it around and make a run.
Yeah, and so we had to get those questions out because of the well-rounded three-dimensionalness of Michael Parkhurst. We had to get those questions in this morning. With all of the stuff you mentioned, going to Joshua Tree in California and spending time with family, when it comes to mentoring, how important is it, I guess, to A, recharge, and B, reassess where you were during the previous season and school year and everything, so you're ready for the 25-26 Beyond Goals mentoring rush that you and Greg and the still to be publicly announced and or named individual that you're adding to the stacks are being added to the stacks.
Yes, it is important, and it's been a constant battle for me this summer a little bit, where it's kind of hit me that, hey, I've got 4 summers left with my kids before they're out of the house, and I'm so balancing, hey, getting some work done, but also if they want to go do something, I want to be available and hang out and they still want to hang out with me, which is cool. So to be able to do that, and so I haven't been as productive this summer as I envisioned myself, but I've also really enjoyed the summer, which is important. And it's the same thing for athletes, right? We know that, hey, you need to get ready for next season, but being in a good space mentally is just as important. And taking advantage of some time off is super important. So yeah, it's been nice. And that said, I mean, even when I'm on vacation, I'm answering a couple texts, and a kid got to college ID camps this week, so I talked to him on Monday. So it's little things, but I definitely have slowed things down a little bit over the past few weeks and trying to step back a little bit, which is important sometimes.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do your mentees still circle back here when it's the summer and the calendar? Do they have that kind of constant contact? Are they checking in, those kinds of things? Even if they don't have anything going on, are they still just checking in randomly to sit there and say, "Hey, I had a question about X, Y, or Z"?
Yeah, and it depends on the age. It's some of the older players who are doing college things in the summer becomes a little bit more important. I think the younger kids are kind of checked out a little bit, which is good. We tell them to check out and make sure they do check out a little bit, which is great. So yeah, it's more the older crowd in the summer of preparing for college and ID camps, and maybe some showcases and big tournaments. When we were down in San Diego, the Surf Cup was going on. So yeah, there's I mean, throughout the summer, there's always these big tournaments and showcases and things. So just helping kids get prepared for those things.
What did you learn about yourself as a mentor last season? I guess we'll phrase it that way. What did you learn about yourself as a mentor last year that you might not have known, or that got reinforced about what you thought you knew about yourself?
I think that even though I've got a confidence about my knowledge and what we're doing, I still think there's sometimes this doubt that creeps in of, hey, am I really making a difference? Is it getting through? Is this what we envisioned it could be, or what we thought it could be? And so every now and then we get really, really good feedback that says that just validates kind of what we're doing in division and how we're helping players. And I think that's always nice, and that's always important to get, because there's sometimes where we have sessions and we don't know. We think the session went great with a team or an individual, or even 4 sessions with an individual, but maybe they're just on the quiet side, or there's just not a ton of feedback. And that doesn't mean it hasn't gone well and it hasn't been successful. So it is nice sometimes to get that validation, to know, okay, hey, we're on the right mark here. And I think that some of the conversations we've had with partnerships and different events and things in the future, I think is shown us that, hey, we're on the right path. We just need to continue to grind in it and grow slowly. But that what we set out to do, we are doing.
How do you and Greg and Beyond Goals as an entity gauge success? How do you grade that, considering all of the individuals that you touch, all of the individuals that you consult, all the individuals that you mentor, all of the organizations that you're in bits and pieces with? How do you and Greg and everybody there at BGM gauge success? And you can take that word and put it wherever you want, but how do you gauge success for what you've been doing over the last couple of years?
Definitely, I think there's 2 different aspects to success. One is obviously financial, and then 2 is the motivational success. So are we growing the company year over year? That's important. I think the next big piece of growth is our sales inbound instead of us finding and outbound, which is slowly occurring, which will be nicer when that fully transitions. BGTV is not the success yet that we want it to be, but I think it's going to grow. But then to my point earlier, is just the feedback from athletes, from families of, hey, this is making a difference, or hey, you really helped my child, or hey, this really helped me prepare for this upcoming season, for this tournament, for this tryout, for this ID camp. The more we hear that, that's success for sure. And then anytime a player or a family lets other people know about us and we get more signups from that, that we know is success, right? If we're getting word of mouth sales, we know that we're making a difference. We're doing good things.
So then how difficult is it for you and Greg as you're growing to be patient, considering we know where ground zero was?
Yeah, for sure.
We know where you are now. We know how competitive the two of you were on the field, and obviously that carries over into business life and wanting to carry on in the next stages. How difficult is it to be patient? Because you mentioned BGTV as an example. It's about investment up front, whether it's elbow grease or what have you, knowing what you want it to be. So how difficult is it to be patient knowing how you were on the field as an athlete?
Yeah, it's challenging because it's not necessarily, hey, the more work you put into it, the more success you have right away. And I guess that's true on the field as well sometimes for some players. You just have to wait for your moment. But yeah, I think that's where the marketing group that we work with helps out, because they know that. And for one example is the blogs that we do for the website. They always said, hey, once you start this, you won't see results for about 18 months, right? But the SEO and all the algorithms and stuff will eventually lead more people to the website, which will lead more to inbound sales and things that we don't have to put the work in to go find the players or to really spread the word. The word will spread by itself. And so, we've stayed committed to the blogs, and same thing with BGTV. We've been staying committed to it, doing the videos every week, even though we probably have 20, 30 members right now, but the goal is to get 2,000 or 3,000. And so, yeah, but we've had some conversations recently with a club and then an organization who are interested and want to figure out some way to institute things. And so then you get the spark and you're like, okay, hey, this can be what we think it can be.
And I would imagine that the feedback is cool, and you're like, yeah, but just the anxiousness of wanting to succeed and wanting to continue to help, and wanting to continue to help, B, wanting to continue to grow, C, what you want to do, all these kinds of things. It's got to be, it's just this difficult mix of, you want to sit there and it's like, I know what we're doing. I know it's going to work. And it's just like, come on, let's get this thing going to the level that you want it to. I imagine that you're like, that there are some days where you're just kind of like, come on, man, we got to get this done. Let's move, people.
Some conversations are very frustrating. And yes, test patience with not only organizations, but people. And you're just like, gosh, let us help you, or let us help your kids, and you'll see it. But we know, hey, not everything is for everyone, and not everyone's going to see the bigger picture or honestly want to see the bigger picture.
Yeah. It's like, just, don't tell me about the birth, show me the baby, basically. One of those kind of things. It's just like, get to there. What was the last book you read?
I have a book that I brought on vacation that I read 0 pages of, John.
So what's that book that you want to read?
It's John Wooden's book. I can't remember the title, but his book I wanted to read. And so
I heard he was pretty good at what he did.
As have I. So that's why I thought I needed to read it. But I haven't gotten there yet. But kids start up school next week here in Columbus, so I'll have a little bit more time to get back to reading.
one of the things that I know I need to get in the picture frame is the pyramid of success. When it comes to, and I know that they exist because, look, if Ted Lasso has it in his office at AFC Richmond, I know that I can get the framework of the pyramid of success somewhere. When it comes to keeping up to date with the latest things and reading, I know that that's something else. You need to kind of clone yourself at points, I would imagine, to sit there and it's like, I need to have this version of me do this and get back to me. I need to have this version of me do this and get back to me. How difficult is it to juggle all of the different yous to make sure that you are devoting the amount of effort that you want to devote to all of these different yous these days?
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure. Because, wear the Rhode Island hat and then the mentoring hat and then obviously the dad hat. And it's sometimes, there's overlap and decisions. And like I could do a lot more traveling to Rhode Island, to Atlanta, to events and things, but that takes away from the dad hat a lot. And the dad hat's the most important hat right now. So, there's always decisions to make, and I've learned to say no, and that's important. And so, I do what I can and know that, hey, that's the best I can do right now.
Tom Mayo, the executive director of Leagues Cup, joining us in about 10 minutes after we have our Friday free kick conversation. I guess catching up with Cap is probably the best way to phrase what we're doing today. Is this true, sir, what Ropes has brought to the table? That Big Red is going to be a part of BGM? Is this true?
Big Red was originally part of the conversation when we were starting BGM.
Okay.
It was the three of us that were going to start BGM. And then he decided, you know what, I'm going to focus on the field coaching and I'll leave the mentoring to you all. So he was part of it at the startup, helped us build the websites and do some things and had discussions, but then he decided, no, I'm going to focus elsewhere. So he's not joining us, no, but we will have, I believe, John, and I've said this for a few weeks, I think, but
yeah.
Monday or Tuesday, we're supposed to announce our newest mentor. So we're excited for that.
I bet,
He's a third man.
I mean, it's just this is part of the growth that we talk about. It's holding us hostage informationally. It's like, hey, wait a minute, this is promised. Who is this individual? How difficult is it to make sure that this information doesn't get leaked?
We're not that big, not that important, John.
Come on.
So I think only the five of us know, the Greg and I, the marketing folks that help us out, and obviously the lady that's going to join us. So
how important is it to make sure that you have the representation, both male and female sides, considering what WOSO has been doing and building here in the States, and to make sure that there's an equal representation, I guess, is probably the best way to phrase it.
Yeah, the women's game has grown tremendously, and I've got a big respect for NWSL now that I watch a lot more games. I watch a lot more highlights for the BGTV. And so first it was like, hey, we need to include as many or almost as many highlights of the women's game as we do men, right? Why not? And but that led us into, hey, we know that younger female soccer players want probably to be mentored by fellow female. So that's important. And we always thought, hey, if we grow or when we grow, we want to add a female. And so we're at that point now, which is great. And so we're excited to bring her on and see what that can do for the growth of BGM.
Well, and is there a universality of messaging and mentoring, or are there things that when you bring in someone who is from the women's soccer side that are different than mentoring from the side that you and Greg are coming from? Is it, other than another voice in the room, are there other things that we're missing out on, not knowing the women's soccer side and the perspective coming in?
I'd assume so. I mean, I don't want to be dumb to think that, say, hey, soccer player is a soccer player. But whatever I know can help you if you're male or female.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's things. I don't know for certain, but I think that the growth will tell us if all of a sudden our numbers increase significantly on the women's side. We know, okay, yeah, they definitely would rather be mentored by a female than Greg or I, which is totally fine. Right? Can we still help them? For sure. But maybe they feel more comfortable. So, whatever it is, we want to explore that.
Bet you didn't think you were going to get into a big philosophical discussion this morning about BGM and all the growth and everything leading into the new season, did you?
Very open-minded coming on to your program, John, because we never know. There's different trails we go down sometimes.
True, but it's one of those things where it's fascinating to see to see BGM grow, to see the two of you branch out in this way, to see what you're tackling as you're learning and growing from a business perspective and bringing the athletic perspective and reaching out to those new generations. To me, it's just been the whole growth curve has been fascinating, and building a business and all those kinds of things. And what folks may not know is that, like I said, it's the whole thing about the dog in the pond. That analogy that I bring sometimes, where if does Deacon like to chase sticks in the water?
She's not around the water enough, honestly, for us to really know. She's gotten in before, but not a ton.
Okay, well, on those instances where we see the stereotypic dog and the stereotypic owner on the side of the lake, owner throws a stick in, dog goes and gets the stick. What do we see above the waterline? We see basically stick in the mouth of the dog just kind of huffing and puffing and getting back to shore. What we don't see is the dog doing all this underneath the waterline to make sure that everything's fine to get back to shore. And so it was just, it's an opportunity sometimes, I guess, at the beginning of a new season to find out about everything going on below the waterline that folks don't get the chance to know about, to learn about what it's like for folks that they've seen as an athlete go into this new part of their lives. And so that was, I guess, part and parcel to when that door got open this morning. I was like, oh, let's go there and see what's going on. That was why I brought it up.
I love it.
But okay, before you go, Atlanta United gets out of Leagues Cup. They scored a lot of goals up against Atlas. Obviously, it's been a long slog. The slog continues to be long. What have you seen?
Yeah, it's good to get a win. Hopefully that obviously can provide a little momentum going back into league play. It's good to see Alexi playing well. Latte Laugh, I don't know. I still think he's a good player, so I still think the attack can get it done. I don't know why it can't with Miguel, Latte, Saba, and Alexi. It just seems like I don't know what's holding them back, but the talent is there. And so, yeah, on one hand, you think, hey,
I don't think you're alone in that assessment with the sir.
Yeah, it's just frustrating because it's like, why? And it's disappointing to be in the situation that we're in, because now it's kind of like, well, I guess we're looking forward to next year, because I don't know. The playoffs, it's still doable, right? This playoffs is still doable.
You got to run the table.
Yeah, you can't have many losses. And just given how the season's gone so far, it's so unlikely. But crazy things have happened. So, shoot, they beat Miami last year when nobody gave them a single chance. So you never know. But for me, it's more probably getting ready for next year, seeing who's going to be part of that roster and who's not, and who can you rely on, and what youngsters do you want part of the team, and giving them more time and things. So that's probably the focus, as disappointing as that is.
Yep, 2 weeks left in the transfer window. We see what happens with 5 out and 4 in. We'll see where we go from here. As always, my friend, it's great to see you on Fridays and find out the growth of Beyond Goals Mentoring, BGM TV. And we'll hit the trumpet when the announcement is made about the 3rd member of the group. So looking forward to it, my friend. It's always great to see you. Enjoy the time that is left before school starts and it gets running all over again.
Thank you, John. Have a great weekend.
All right, there goes Michael Parkhurst. And so it's great to have Parky there. All right, hot tag. And this is where we get to try and chase after one of the busiest men in show business. And I mean this because phase one, and it took me a while to figure out that it is phase one. It wasn't necessarily group stages. Phase one. Phase one is done. Now we're getting into quarters and semis and working through and juggling that in the MLS schedule. And for that, we go and catch up with the executive director of Leagues Cup, Tom Mayo. Tom Mayo on the keyboards. Tom Mayo. Sorry, it's my Peter Frampton joke this morning, Tom.
Well, good morning. How are you?
Welcome aboard to the morning show and the chaos that is a Friday. Glad that we were able to finally catch up with you to find out everything about Leagues Cup.
Thank you. Apologies about the earlier bump. We were in the process. Lots goes on, right? And we've got a considerable amount of games in this very condensed window. So it's great. Look, thank you for appreciate being on the show. It's great. Talk to your listeners and explain a little bit more about Leagues Cup.
What attracted you to become the executive director of Leagues Cup in the first place?
Lots of aspects. Great teams to work with. I met both Liga MX and MLS teams, and their front of office, great teams to work with, right? And they've got some bold plans. I think, secondly, was how often is a soccer tournament in its infancy like this, in its year 3. And it's got so much future ahead of it. That's incredibly rare. There might be one or two added to the global soccer calendar every year, but that was it. And I think, opportunity to work with great people. This new soccer venture that was building had some history and was looking for someone to jump in and, sort of guide it for the next 5-10 years.
And if I remember your past correctly, you're a track and field guy.
Yeah.
So I would imagine to carry out an early analogy here in the interview, were you a sprint guy or a distance guy?
Middle distance, so a miler.
Okay, so you know about strategy in a race, whether you need to be the rabbit, whether you like to hang off the outside shoulder of somebody while they're in the inside lane and then make your move, last lap, bell lap, backstretch, whatever. I would imagine that kind of a mentality also helps when you're trying to piece together this tournament and all of the tweaks that are in this year where the schedule is more compressed. You don't have the gap space between the end of phase one and getting back to MLS scheduling. I would imagine that part of that mentality helps in trying to figure out, okay, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. So that way, when we get to the bell lap in 25, everything is fine and we make the sprint to the tape and it is what it is.
Exactly right. There is that ability to sort of maneuver quickly in the environment that you're in and stay calm in it. I mean, the fact of running a mile or 1,500 meters, it's the ability to stay calm under pressure. And the calmer you are, for the longer you are, the more you can sustain and think clearly and cross the line. But there's one aspect of the mile, and it took me 8 years to break 4 for a mile. It just took 8 years of hard work. And it's just unrelenting hard work to do that. And you only see the end and it's the race. And I think that's the team around me and myself is we've dug in for the long run. This is going to be really hard. And so sort of I've got the same mindset. Look, this is going to take 8 to 10 years to keep applying pressure every day, keep building the tournament. And that's how you end up with those great races, because it's just hard work every day. So that's sort of my mentality going into it. It's delightful when you get to the end of the 8 years and you break the 4-minute mile, but it is just that focus every single day. You just keep going and going. So both skills.
How difficult is it to show patience or have other individuals around you be as patient as you and your group are? Because there's always that idea of instant results, instant gratification. Hey, we got a tournament on. Hey, it's new. Hey, it's shiny. We've got to, we have to have all the fireworks exploding, like the end of the Abu Dhabi, F1 race or something. How difficult is it for folks around you to be patient, understanding that slow and steady wins the race?
It sometimes it is difficult sometimes, and I think everybody wants. There's no magic wand, and I learned that pretty quickly across all the sports I've been involved with. Sometimes you're blessed with moments like Messi with his comments last week or 2 weeks ago, and that suddenly gives you a bump. But I think incremental. Every single day you're making incremental step forwards. You're making incremental changes, and the stakeholders and all the partners you're with, whether it's Liga MX, MLS, CONCACAF, sponsors, everyone, they're seeing these incremental changes and just building on the tournament, building its future. And I think that's important that everyone sees, so that we're just focused on, look, we want this to be a cornerstone of global and US soccer in 10 years, and how are we going to get there, and all those little steps to get us there.
I know that scheduling for those of us that cover the event, the idea of wrapping phase one and the tournament into the MLS schedule instead of having the big gap spaces there have been in years past, that's been a help in blending everything together. What's the feedback that you've gotten from clubs, et cetera, when it comes to the new tweaks coming into the 2025 version?
Good, very positive. So obviously there was a lot of work done actually before my tenure. I started in December, but I know as soon as the format finished last year, all the club CBOs, the front office staff in every club in Mexico and the US got together and said, right, there's something great to this tournament. How do we just make it better? And they just went through in a process and went through, okay, every aspect, what's our focus? And those matchups was it, right? So you put the matchups on and you put Liga MX versus MLS, and then you see that creates the competition on the field, and everything flows off that. And then it was about finding that window. And there are much smarter people than me in MLS and Liga MX putting these schedules together. And it's a very complicated process, sort of the regular season, the FIFA windows, you've got CONCACAF competitions, you've got all of this myriad, and then they're presenting everyone the best options for, players, player travel, what's the best windows for for broadcast, what's the best windows for partners, what's the best window for fans. And so there's lots to take in, but I think it's been great so far. So I won't say any more. We head into a quarterfinal with some great feedback.
No doubt. Guy like Dome Torron has been quite vocal about the scheduling from a Liga MX perspective. I believe he called it a trap tournament, where he says it gives you very little, takes away a lot, takes away training time, quality from what we're trying to build. Argues winning the trophy wouldn't bring much prestige. What would you say to coaches and to those that might have that point of view when it comes to the Liga MX side of things?
I think, look, we work with Liga MX closely, and I know lots of comments in post-match conferences, and it's always people are immediate views, and I think we just take a step back and we talk to them all as well after the competition, and we meet with all the players and many players as we can, and the coaches, and we say, look, what is it about this format that we can improve and look after? We've made considerable strides with looking after players this year, flying in from Mexico and their travel arrangements and how we best prepare them for their best performance. And I think it is, we are still year 3. And this format, the tournament, everything else only aims to improve and address any comments that they've got when we all catch up afterwards in September.
I know that it's difficult to juggle 2 leagues, 3 countries all at the same time. And I know that there is probably a desire on some front at some point somewhere down the road where the Liga MX sides could have home matches in their own stadia, because if you go to a place like Nemesio Diaz or Akron or Azteca, those are great ambassadorial locations for the sport. How difficult is it for someone who doesn't know the logistics? How difficult is it to do something like that where all 3 countries are represented? And I know that for the sake of travel and making sure that everybody gets to destinations, that it's self-contained inside the US and Canada.
Yeah, once again, I think good question, because when I started, as well as another question I had as well, is like, look at, we've got a location in the USA, and what's the analysis for this at this stage in year 2, heading into year 3? And I'm about to go through that process as well. But it is a very thorough analysis just around starting a tournament, the logistics, the schedules. And they chose the USA, obviously, and both parties did, Liga MX, and with the support of all the clubs and the US as well. So, look, it's going to be a full analysis at the end of this year. And then we will look at it again. And it's something we're committed to do every single year as this tournament grows. So I won't say either way, but look, it's full analysis. We go back to just like coaches do, right? End of the tournament, you go back, you look at everything and say, how can we improve? And it'll be definitely a consideration.
Tom Mayer, the executive director of Leagues Cup, hanging out with us here as phase 1 is now complete. There were some bouts of crazy in phase 1. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There were some matchups that were just absolutely nuts. You had Seattle putting 7 on the board in 45 minutes. You had matches that were going for 13 minutes added. You had crazy shootouts going 12 frames before they were decided. What's the feedback been like for you about phase one in general, where you had a great run by a team like Juarez, who was, I think, ranked 32nd coming in, and they get right to the end before math and a loss takes care of it? What's the feedback been about phase one with all the different storylines?
I think there's been, we're getting stats last night in the operations center. There hasn't been a game 0-0 in this tournament, which is unheard of, right? 93% of our games that have gone through have consequence, right? And it was only in that final day that, you found those teams, a couple of those teams that matched up that weren't able to, alter the table. So from those fronts, we were delightfully surprised at the 0-0 aspect. There is no nil. It's just everyone's scoring. And then going into penalties, we've got on average, 3.5 goals per game, up from 2.5 last year and up again from MLS and Ligue MX season. So we're going to go away and look at it. Is it the intensity on the field that's being created by this intense tournament, which, it is, there are no prisoners here, right? You've got to win straight away. As soon as you're in your first game, you've got to take as many points home as possible, and you go again. And I think there is, and I think that's shown on the field, the emotion. I was delightfully surprised as well, when the penalties are taken, all the teams are, arm in arm, and they're very emotional about it. And it means a lot to them, right? They are going to advance or they're not. And for some players, this is their first international tournament. And for some clubs, this is potentially a first international trophy as well. And it's a different pace and it's a different level. I remember my first international tournament, right? And it's just a completely different world, different pace of the game, just everything changes, and you just step up another level. And that's what's been great to watch, is just that competitive aspect of these are hard games to win and people are fighting for it.
Is obviously, I would imagine, one of the other things that's going to get just put on the table, the idea of more than 4 making it from each side. Obviously, TV partners have to be a part of the discussion as well, because in American college football, there's the discussion with the college football playoff where they go from 4 to 8 to 12, and it's like Team 13 is going to sit there and go, well, what about us? Obviously, the idea of possibly expanding after phase one into a phase two on the table too.
Yeah, I think that happened in some respects last year, because we went into that other round and we had 77, and this year we've gone down to 62. So it is a very tight pyramid in that regard. Whereas last year there was that room. So yeah, I think once again we'll just get to the end of this season and say, right, what can we do to take that feedback from those clubs that may want to have a second chance or be remain in the tournament for longer. But it's ruthless. It's a tough competition. You've got to win everything and get out on top. Look at Seattle. They and then look at Club America. If you don't put away that first win, your strategy has to be as many goals as possible and as many wins thereafter.
Nothing like win and win big. You got to win them all, and you got to win big from the absolute beginning to have this thing.
Just load it with strikers, right? You just got to put all your strikers on and go.
We're going to go 9-1-1. We're just going to go ahead and line everybody up and rock and roll. Yeah. How many of the matches were you able to see in person to gauge atmospheres and things like that?
I saw 2 in person, and obviously we were running, and that was great to see. I think we were down at Red Bulls. We were watching the weather down there, and that was great to see the atmosphere. And I think from our perspective, obviously in the OSOC, the operations committee, so we're surrounded with, I'm sure the listeners understand, but everything from medical to security to broadcast, and we're in there making live decisions whether the game needs to be bumped because of lightning, as you find sort of in Orlando or Cincinnati. We're watching those, and then you're looking at other aspects that on the field, quality of the field, how are the players, the referees, the VAR, all of those aspects, that's all coming into one room. And it's a very intense 5-6 hours that we go from, I'd say it's longer, it's 7 hours, from 7 in the evening to last night was 2 a.m. And then we pick it up again the next morning. So yeah, it's I couldn't go to as many as I wanted because it's just the way the format's structured, right? You've got East Coast, West Coast, 5 to 6 games a night, and it's on. And I would spend all my time in an aeroplane, but I'll get to see more as quarters, semis, and final go on.
So what cup of coffee are you on this morning, by the way?
My second. My second to go. And but look, I benefit from an incredibly smart bunch of people that work in Liga MX and MLS, right? There is some of the smartest brains in soccer, whether it's the scheduling, whether it's the fields, whether it's weather, and they really surround themselves with some very smart people to help us all make good decisions together and keep building this tournament. So yeah, I think everyone's on coffee, and we're all in this together. And let's 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks to go, and we'll find the winner.
Yep, and there's some great matchups coming up in the quarters. When it comes to officials and officiating, who's in charge? Is that a CONCACAF decision for crews and such?
Yeah, it's CONCACAF. We work with CONCACAF on it, and it's a program we have in working with CONCACAF, and it's a long program. We don't just turn up to them and say, "Hey, look, can you provide some referees?" We really, we've got a very close relationship, and we work on every aspect. Obviously, the tournament's new, and educating the format and educating the new rules of the game that came in this year as well. And we do summits and workshops, and we really are very close in this process. But ultimately, it's CONCACAF that make those decisions, nominate the referees. But they're a great partner.
I was going to ask, because does Leagues Cup as an entity have discussions about peer review, official review, those kinds of things, or that specifically just left to CONCACAF and their own devices when it comes to crews and individuals?
I think we have an open conversation about the games. Every day we're looking at every game, whether it's what were the red cards, what were the yellow cards, what were the field conditions like, what were the pitches, everything. You can imagine that we're just going through for 2 hours every morning and just reviewing. So if there's something with referees or there's feedback, it's an open communication with CONCACAF on it. And it's something we'll review as well at the end of the tournament, and we put it all together. We don't make decisions in the heat of the moment with this stuff. We really try and take it away if we can, sit down, and then just have a discussion around how it went, what we can do to improve, and we move on to next year.
Round of 8, and there's one matchup that just jumps out at you. Messi and Friends and Tigres. And nothing like being the 3 team out of Liga MX and having to play Inter Miami in round 2. It's Seattle Puebla, Messi and Friends and Tigres, LAG, who has had a rough season in Major League Soccer. So we always talk about tournaments and what they can be. You get through the math in the West, and you take on Pachuca, and the purple team taking on Toluca. You look at those final 8. What do you see?
I think it's always a surprise, right? As much as everyone in the office has got their own sort of different positions, I think we've got we've got some very strong games and some good narrative going in. I think our focus is just like we're just working with all the stadiums, the venues, and their travel, and making sure all the preparations in place for the players, for broadcast, for TV, and that's going on all around us this morning before we announce the exact date and time for kickoff. So it's great matchups. It's the Inter Miami Tigres. Wow, you've got those, 2 Argentinian strikers. Who would have thought that in Messi's hometown, right? So, it's good. It's exciting to watch, but lots of work to do in the meantime.
Well, as always, that as long as the tournament exists, you've got a home. If you want to come in and sit there and say, I got something to talk about. What we'd like to do, if it's okay, when Leagues Cup is over, is have you back to kind of talk about the tournament on the whole, what everybody learned, and now that you've got a champion with a trophy and all these kinds of things, and maybe you can bring the trophy on the show and sit there and just kind of show it to everybody. It's kind of borrow it from the champion.
I've got to steal it off the team, though. I've got to go in and get it off the team. That might be quite difficult.
Well, just sit there and go tell you, no, we got to get it shiny. We got to take the fingerprints off of it. You get your day with it from there. I got to take it someplace. So I will roll out the red carpet when the tournament is over. For you to come back and we can talk about things. Thank you for doing this on limited sleep and your second cup of coffee. I know we've been trying to track you down for a while, but I'm glad we did. When's your first meeting today?
We started at 2:00 this morning.
Whoa.
Then we all got some sleep, and then we're going again in 20 minutes.
Okay.
So, look, just once again, thank you so much. Thanks for having us on. Appreciate all the listeners here. We'll come down. We'll try and bring the trophy. Let's see if we can get some players as well, maybe to talk to. So, but thanks again for the support.
Go finish your second cup of coffee in your next meeting in 20 minutes, Tom. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right. Tom Mayo, Executive Director of the Leagues Cup. He's going to go finish his second cup of coffee now. So that was that was kind of the discussion that we were looking to have. So that was good stuff. Glad that we were able to catch up with Tom. Literally trying to grab Tom at times during phase 1 has been like trying to catch water with an open hand. I mean, literally, it has been like, okay, we've got him, and then he's got a meeting, and then we got him, and then he's got a meeting. And so, okay, I hope that answered some questions. The questions that specifically I had on the board had to do with officials. And so that is a review with Leagues Cup and with CONCACAF. So CONCACAF apparently brings them all to the table, and they have a review process on the individuals. So, and then the other one with Dome Torrent and the idea of it being a trap tournament. For those that missed that quote from Dome, after the 1-1 draw with Red Bulls, and Monterrey gets the extra point in the penalty kick shootout, Dome said, quote, he said that the competition is designed to trip up Liga MX giants rather than reward them. Obviously, he's looking out for his team and he's looking out for his league. I get that. Here's what Dome said. And like I said, this is Dome. It's a trap tournament. It gives you very little and takes a lot away. Takes away training time, takes away quality from what we're trying to build. Torrent argued that winning the trophy wouldn't bring much prestige, yet failing to progress often sparks exaggerated talk of failure or disaster in Mexico. Look, trophies are trophies, and you get to hang them in a trophy case. I would completely and totally agree with the idea failing to progress sparks exaggerated talk of failure or disaster in Mexico. It is a young tournament, and it is part of the pantheon of tournaments in professional soccer here in this hemisphere. You have tournaments. I mean, think about it in the other leagues and countries that we follow. In England, and it's too early in the morning, and I can't quite do it the way that it is there. But it is great to see. So this is interesting. PT Martinez listed as joining us this morning. So we'll hop into the morning show here and find out what's going on.
Hey, what's up, pal?
PT Martinez joining us. Where are you, by the way?
I am I'm at the Westin in St. Louis. I am literally staring at Busch Stadium, which is where they put us up at the hotel right across the street from these damn Cardinals who just terrorized my Mets for so many years. Yeah.
Can't take you anywhere. By the way, your time with River Plate, second time, has not worked very well.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I still got a nasty left peg though. You can't take that away from me.
No, that is absolutely true. What cup of coffee are you on, sir? By the way, Tyler Tarrant's joining for those just listening on the audio side.
Sure.
What cup of coffee?
Just an Americano. Just keep black Americano. Keeping it simple this morning.
Okay, is it your first one or your second?
It's my first.
Okay.
My fiance actually decided to join me. She drove with the dog. She drove Nala, and we got some family here in St. Louis. So took a nice little walk with the pup. We're gonna go to. It's her gotcha day actually, so we're gonna take a walk to the arch, take a nice little picture with Nala at the arch. Yeah.
So, how long a drive is it from Covington, Kentucky to the arch?
It's about 5.5. But you know I don't live down in Kentucky. You know that, John. Don't put that on me.
You fly out of there. Fly out of CBG. You have to cross the river to leave Cincinnati. You're staring at Cincinnati as you're leaving, and there's a river in between you and the two. Nala's Gotcha Day. How many years? 5. Wow.
Yep.
So, all right. So go back 5 years with Nala and the Gotcha Day. What were you looking for at the time? What was it? Did Nala pick you 5 years ago?
So I actually wasn't part of the proceedings. I only met Shannon, my fiance, 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
So she had gotten the dog in a previous life, and she was worried that Nala was not going to be cute enough. They did not know that they were taking her home on the day of. So basically, I give Shannon crap for that every other day, thinking that Nala was not cute enough to bring home. Obviously, she was and continues to be. But yeah, no, very glad Shannon decided to pick up Nala and keep her for that matter.
Absolutely.
5 years ago.
Yes.
Yep.
Your predecessor here in hour number 2 in the Hour of Chaos was Executive Director of Leagues Cup, Tom Mayo. and we got to catch up with him about phase one. Sir, comma, what did you think about phase one of League's Cup? ?
Oh boy, a lot of mixed emotions, similar to how I'm feeling about going into the Jets season again. I think that there were some really, really great and fun moments. I had fun on the call for the 3 games that I did during phase one. All 3 games meant something, but I can't help but look at the last 2 days and how there were only a few games that mattered.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, John, but like the LAFC Tigres game, that is a game why you do Leagues Cup.
Mm-hmm.
But you got wholesale rotation from Steve Cherundolo and company, and it ended up being a decent game. And the buzz because Sun was being introduced, you know, that night or the day after, whatever. And 32-52 is putting on a show, but like you can't have your pot 1 v pot 1 matchups in a Liga MX and MLS tournament not have any competitive meaning behind it. Now, I get that there's still this sort of like rivalry and dominance on the line and everything that is sort of going to be spoken to us in terms of marketing and everything like that. And I'm all for it because I still saw some bite even from the teams that were eliminated. But the whole point of this is to have competitive matches between Major League Soccer and Liga MX clubs, and there's give and take with any format that you're going to roll out in this competition, whether it be shutting down the league for a proper month. Okay, we're going to get rid of that. We're going to condense the tournament, and we're only going to have 3 games. Okay, well, now you're going to find yourself in a position where if you lose 1 game, you're basically knocked out from the possibility of qualifying. And this is the take, right, is that you're going to potentially have some meaningless games. So it's not going to be perfect. I think that the concept of constantly rooting against MLS teams, if you're a fan of Atlanta and rooting against everybody else in your own league, is interesting. I like it. It was sort of an interesting supportive twist. But yeah, definitely some kinks to work out. But I think this is more of the right idea than I think the original format is my overall takeaway.
And I mean, you had your rounds of chaos, and there were some very unentertaining kickabouts, especially late in matches that didn't mean anything. You saw some triple-digited numbers from Liga MX sides, which for me is kind of the palace intrigue of it all. When you have, hey, you're starting 2 or 3 kids that are like 189, 212, and 164. You know, but for me, I dig that. But I like the idea of the compressed schedule, where you're not having to wait. Like if you don't make it out of group, you're just kind of sitting there and twiddling your thumbs for 3 weeks before the MLS schedule comes back.
Yes.
And in talking to Tom, I think it sounds like one of the things under advisement is the expansion of the MLS CFP to 6 or 8 as opposed to just 4 coming out, to where and you know that folks are going to come. What do you have, a band now? Is there a band around you that's charged?
There's just well, that's why I had to wait. I texted you and I said that I needed to wait to jump on because I needed to wait for my headphones to charge, but I guess they're still picking it up. I don't know what sort of nonsense they're playing, but it certainly is not going to be playing at my wedding in less than 3 months. But so he said that they're toying with the concept of going to 6 to 8 in each league.
They're looking at it. That'll be one of the things that they talk about at the end of this tournament, is the idea of maybe going to 6 on each side or something like that, as one of the other topics on their list of things to talk about after this year is over.
Yeah, that was my first suggestion on a podcast that I went on like 2 days ago, was like it felt like we were right on the cusp of having a really interesting final day, because it seems like the cutoff was 6 points. If you got 6 points, you weren't getting in. If you got 7, then it's going to come down to the tiebreakers. I've never been someone who, and I don't know people who do it. If you do, then you're a psychopath, who like the concept that if you're being decided to get into the next phase of a tournament by goal differential, like I don't like that. But there's only so many teams and there's only so many games that, you know, that's sort of where we fall in it. But yeah, like if you expand it by 1 or 2, or I guess it has to be 2 more teams at the bare minimum, I think that creates enough jeopardy on the final day and keeps everybody in the mix, because if you lose your first game, you can still win your last 2 and find yourself with a chance at the bare minimum, right? Or find a way to make each game count towards something. Like, you know what I was thinking back on the 23 and 24 versions, and like how everybody was upset that there were just random MLS v MLS games going on in this competition that was supposed to be MLS versus Liga MX. Those all MLS games should have counted towards the regular season, similar to how NBA Cup does it. You know what I mean? Like, so just finding a different way that if you're not going to expand it to 6 or 8, then how do you make those games count towards something? I don't know exactly what that is, but I don't know. That was an idea that I was stirring up while I was on a flight from Minneapolis to St. Louis yesterday.
And I went over, I don't know if you heard me mention the Dome Tarrant quote, where he refers to it as a trap tournament. Gives you very little, takes a lot away. But I mean, yeah, you're defending your honor. I mean, I get it. I mean, it's Dome saying
trap tournament. I've heard of a trap game, never a trap tournament.
It's a trap tournament. It gives you very little and takes a lot away, takes away training time, takes away quality from what we're trying to build. He says that if you don't advance, they love to throw around the words like failure and make it seem like the world is ending. Managers have even been punished for speaking their minds. But my opinion of the Leagues Cup is very clear. Winning the trophy wouldn't bring much prestige.
I mean, what's more important, prestige or qualifying for CONCACAF Champions Cup? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and this whole concept that like tournaments take away from training time and get away from what you're actually trying to do. Welcome to the world of tournament football, Dome Tarrant. Like you don't like. Okay, does the World Cup have the highest quality football known to mankind? Or are there beautiful patterns of play and clear identities from international teams? No, it's tournament football. Go out there, win your individual battles, and go win the game and try to progress. Like, who said that this was supposed to be some grand opportunity for you to be able to work on your philosophies and sharpen up your game model, Dome? Like, come on, man. Don't. That's weak. That's weak sauce from a coach who clearly got eliminated.
And like I said, I know that you're defending your team's honor and all that kind of stuff. I get it. You're supposed to say those kinds of things to defend your league and defend your team and all that. I get it. It's coach speak to a certain degree. I don't know how much of it he actually does believe, and how much of it is press conference Dome or anything like that. But if he put that out there, and I'm like, okay, sure, fine, yeah.
Yeah, protecting his players.
Absolutely. Yeah. The other element that I wanted to ask Tom about was who's in charge of the officiating crews, and he said that is a CONCACAF thing, but Leagues Cup is consulted. They do have conversations back and forth. We had some issues, man. We really did.
I didn't catch any of your games. On my list of teams to watch during Leagues Cup, unfortunately, Atlanta United were not towards the top, so I do apologize. Sir. Don't sir me, okay? You earn the right to be in that list throughout the course of the season. Tell me about these problems. Was it? I don't disagree with. I think the comments came. I forget who they came from, but like. That a Mexican ref should be refereeing a Mexican versus MLS game. Like I don't agree with.
It was literally the matchup again. It was the second matchup in group stage. The Keylor Navas red card that happened, and you had a Costa Rican. You had a center ref who has been cutting his teeth mainly in the Costa Rican Primera, who has Gold Cup and CONCACAFian experience, treating Keylor Navas with far too much rope after he'd been given a red, and it was just completely and totally out of control. Look, here's when you have time, do this. There were 11 instances on Monday when we had our Reffing Down Here segment that literally were discussing this crew, this match, and then what happened at the Musovski foul with Seattle and Santos Laguna, and Orlando and Atlas, which was completely and totally out of control. But the Atlanta Pumas game had probably 9 or 10 instances of soft cards, PKs that were called, and the final 90-plus where Keylor Navas gets a red, loiters on the field. I mean, literally, this was people who were spitting mad. Keylor Navas gets a red, and he's basically trying to take somebody with him. He's hanging out on the field. They're trying to put a jersey on Angulo, they're out of subs. Position player goes in. Angulo is having to take his time and figure out how to put on gloves and a keeper jersey. I mean, it is loitering of the highest housing degree. And then Navas isn't kicked off the field. He's basically bringing in planes with Angulo, telling him how to line up a free kick at 19 yards out, and he's not being kicked off the field or being ushered up by security. It was chaos of the highest order. Just go to the end of match day 2 and watch that. It was nuts. It was crazy that Taylor that he was getting.
But what you're saying to me is just another CONCACAF officiated game.
Yes.
Like, what are we really talking about here? None of this is fascinating, but not surprising.
But it came. But I wanted to ask Tom about the review process of selecting officials. We did get our full view of O'Shane Nation, as we do in these CONCACAF tournaments as well. But yeah, match day 2 for Atlanta United. Just go to like the 89th minute, and when Jamal gets wiped out by Keylor Navas, and just watch the end from that moment there going forward. That's your homework.
You guys played the kids in your win, huh? You guys had an interesting starting 11.
And for those of us that have seen the kids and seen the twos and cover the twos, and by the way, Atlanta United 2 and Toronto FC 2 is on the network tonight, 6:30 pregame, 7:03 kick at soccerdownhere.net and at on our Mixler channel at soccerdownhere.mixler.com with somebody at the end of an index finger calling that match. Yeah, I mean, it was Will Riley, came in Togashi with the twos. You got to see Nick Sessick come in, who's was brought in by Chris Henderson from Messi and Friends 2, and that connection was there.
I like Nick Sessick. I called a game of his while he was playing for Indiana on the Big Ten Network. The same year that I called Patrick Ajiman against Andrew Privet while URI was playing Penn State. And now I'm seeing Sam Sarver killing it for FC Dallas. Indiana, man, they just pump out professional soccer players who are making the bare minimum, but somehow contributing and finding their way on the roster.
Jaden Hibbert started in net, and they got the full Jaden Hibbert experience. You got Nick Sessick starting. You had Will Riley starting. Luke Brennan. You had Nick Sessick come in. You had Togashi come in. Salma Zafaro came in. Leo Afonso got a cup of coffee. Cooper Sanchez, who got a homegrown deal in the week, got a cup of coffee.
How was Leo Afonso?
I mean, it was early returns, but obviously when Chris Henderson sees something in an unused asset down in Fort Lauderdale, and you basically get him Inter Miami had to spend money and an international slot to eventually have to get rid of Leo Afonso basically for a song and a cup of coffee to Chris Henderson. 15 minutes, had a couple of touches. I think he was just trying to get integrated into what's going on. Fouled once, 1 for 2 on his duels. So, I mean,
I liked him. I think he could be a nice piece.
And so, with the help needed on the left-hand side, you have a guy like Leo Afonso being brought in. But, yeah, it was a lot of the kids, and it was it was a fun one to see. So you, sir, are in St. Louis, and you have a matchup where all caps have not had the best season. It's because we always feel like we have to reference them as St. Louis City SC because that's in all caps. You have to reference it as such. Nashville coming to town at a plus 108, no real surprise. All caps are a plus 223, and your draws a plus 269. What's homework been like for you on this one?
Homework is that St. Louis are a bad soccer team, unfortunately. And I really like Nashville, like to the point where I'm starting to believe they're a legitimate.
You like Nashville?
Oh no, it's borderline love. I'm about to say something stupid to Nashville, probably on like the 6th or 7th date. I adore their style of play, which is a hybrid. I love coaches who are not overly rigid and who are willing to sort of say, we can play direct, but we can also carve you up, and we're just going to simply play to our strengths. And BJ Callahan, looking back on it now, I think BJ would have been a really good option instead of Greg's second stint to just sort of give him the reins. Now, we didn't know this, right? Because he didn't really have any head coaching experience other than that one opportunity he got for the U.S. men's national team. And what was it, Gold Cup or Leagues Cup or whichever one. And watching them now, I'm like, this dude knows how to get a group to buy in. And Sam Surridge and Hani Mukhtar are probably the best 1-2 punch in MLS at the moment. And that includes Lionel Messi and Suarez, just because of the lack of production we've gotten from Suarez outside of the penalty spot over the past couple of weeks.
And wearing straw hats.
And wearing straw hats, which, it's just not for him. Some people just need to sort of take a look in the mirror and be like, there are certain things I can and can't pull off. St. Louis, the thing for me that continues to just eat me away is like the Lutz Pfannenstiel fingerprints all over the fall from grace that was 2023. Every single decision that he has made has been the wrong one. And it was such a reactive and borderline, like, I don't want to say immature for lack of, like, I don't want to insult the guy, but it just felt so, just felt like somebody was playing a game of, like, Football Manager and was just screwing around to see what would happen if, because the results weren't going your way after a really good season. And it's really unfortunate because that city has, just the way that you guys did, embraced that team from the moment that Don Garber said go. And he has made every single wrong move, whether it was, disrespecting Tim Parker and the money that he offered him after coming off an MLS All-Star season, whether it was, sort of blaming Bradley Carnell for the slew of injuries, and for Edu Leuven going through, dealing with his wife having stage 4 brain cancer and not being a part of the 2024 season for the most part, and only having 10 appearances this year. Like, and now I look at the roster and I just, like, I kind of shrug my shoulders and I'm like, they haven't gotten any better. They've significantly gotten worse. And Nashville, coming off of that 1-0 loss against San Diego, which I'm sure is still looming large. By the way, Andy Nahar, top 5 MLS player of all time.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah. Wasted years of his life in DC. Now I get it. He's an Alexandria. He's a DMV kid and that's his club. But, like, when we take a look at what DC has, or more importantly, has not accomplished over the past 6 years, he could have been winning MLS Cups or winning trophies with another club. He is phenomenal. Love the guy.
So basically,
Love
what you're saying is that the Pfannenstiel Weltschmerz is very, very heavy there in St. Louis. The St. Louis.
I don't know what that means,
the
but
St.
yes.
Louis World Pain Weltschmerz. Pfannenstiel.
The world
Pain
what?
Weltschmerz.
I still don't know what you're talking about.
The angst in St. Louis.
There's more than yes. He is angst.
It is world pain. It is Weltschmerz. It is gone.
World pain. I thought you were saying world paint, and I was like, is there an artist that I'm missing here? Because art just doesn't do it for me. Yeah, no.
World pain Weltschmerz. So it is Pfannenstiel Weltschmerz is what they're experiencing. The Lutz.
More than that. Yeah, I think
it's Pfannen. I was going to say it's Angsten. It's Pfannenstiel.
Angsten Steel.
That's the term. Yes.
Yes.
So, yes.
Angsten Steel.
So Rodrigo de Paul has made it to Messi and friends with a couple of weeks left in the window, and and Thomas Mueller to Vancouver, and some guy named Yeonmin Son to LAFC. There's some heavyweights being tossed around here, sir.
There are. Rodrigo de Paul by far is the most attractive and most holy crap signing, I think, out of the 3 for sure. The Sonny one, I don't know how you feel about it, John, but listen, the $26 million that they spent, they're going to recoup that in jersey sales within 3 weeks. Like, if they haven't already recouped half, I'd be shocked.
However,
isn't this just a little curious given the Olivier Giroud experiment that they just went through for the past year?
Yeah.
Isn't it just a little perplexing? And I get it that as an owner of a Los Angeles sports franchise, you have an obligation to attract names to your stadium that otherwise wouldn't come. And and the way to do that is to attract people to your club that have big names. And obviously the Korean population in Los Angeles, you can't not mention it. But I just wonder if they've done it again in getting so obsessed with a name that you're forgetting that this group operates. Now, Steve Cherundolo will make this work for 6 months.
And then it'll be Ange Postecoglou's problem. Oh, absolutely.
You think so? No. You don't actually believe that. You think that after winning a Europa League title that he's going to come? That he's going to come?
There are
coach
black
in MLS?
helicopters here in the office.
Oh, Jonathan, I would love to know the odds on Ange Postecoglou to be the next LAFC coach, because I will not be putting any shekels down on it. But do you feel the same way that like
they're trying to do a make good for the mess up, and so they decide to go and get Sonny for 26. I just wonder how you're going to integrate, how it's gonna work.
He's going to be the 9. You're not moving Bouanga at this point in time.
Are there going to be enough soccer balls to go around?
Well, the good news is that Sonny doesn't have an ego, and like he's not a problem child, and I think that he'll fit into the system however he needs to. My question is just the legs. I mean, you just paid $26 million for a guy who quite literally was told over the past few weeks under Thomas Frank, "You're not part of the plans. We'll move you if you want to move. Just tell us where you want to go, and we're going to try to get top dollar." And I think that for Spurs fans, of which I know many, this business that they just got done is incredible. $26 million for a player that literally was not going to play this year is phenomenal. Mazel tov to Daniel Levy, and that's not
and Daniel Levy's like, "Oh, they'll appreciate me when I'm gone." I would disagree, sir. Circle gets the square.
Yeah, I don't know, John. I look at it and I'm just like, this is LAFC trying to, like you said, make good on the mess up. But yeah, and Olivier Giroud and Sonny at this point in time, very different stages of their careers, and I think that Sonny still has things to give. Whether or not he fits into the LAFC model, which I'm constantly told is based on dynamism, explosivity, legs, and I'm like, you just picked up a 33-year-old man. Like, what are we talking about? And then you're going to take this opportunity away from Nathan Ordaz, who's played brilliantly this year?
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you wish to cut the promo for your matchup, sir, since you're at the end of your cup of coffee?
Yeah, it's getting a little lukewarm. St. Louis City, Nashville, downtown St. Louis. I think that with a 10-day break and both of these teams not having played in Leagues Cup, I think there's going to be a real energy about Energizer Park, if I do say so myself. And if you're an Atlanta United fan and you want a game to watch this weekend that's not your own and have it on the second screen, I do think that this is going to be interesting, because if you're St. Louis at this point in time, throw caution to the wind. You're 12 points off of a playoff spot. You've got nothing to lose. And Nashville are like a very, very, very fun team to watch. And I'm telling you, John, Eastern Conference Final, bare minimum. Bare minimum.
Okay.
I'm willing to ride. I said Galaxy were going to win MLS Cup. Last year at this juncture of the season, I'm willing to at least go to say that Nashville are they're knocking on the door or something similar.
Right. It is on the record, and it will probably be circled out to all of the social medias that we have. Thank you for crashing, PT. We appreciate your left foot now and always. And thank you for answering the bat signal just to introduce yourself into the hour of chaos as you normally do.
Hey, I love having the keys to the garage, and I appreciate you keeping it open for me and make sure those beers are cold.
Yes, sir.
Right,
anytime.
partner?
See you soon, my friend. All right. That's Pity Martinez joining us live from St. Louis. Who knew? Pity Martinez would be joining us live from St. Louis the way that he did. Tyler Terrans basically just parachuting in. And that's kind of what we do. It's like literally, it's like, hey, you want to come in? You want to come in? Then come on in. And so literally, that's where we are. But yeah, but Tyler was in St. Louis, in the lobby of the hotel. I was hoping that his laptop or whatever device he was on was not overheating, so that way, I didn't want, because I could tell when I promoted that Tyler had parachuted in, that I could tell that was when his signal kind of got interrupted, because if there was at one point where you were watching and you felt his signal kind of burp a little bit, that was when I'd mentioned Tyler on social media and it went out on his phone, and that was when his phone kind of went off a little bit. So we are in the weekend whip around section. And so that's where we are. Okay. All right. Juice boxes for the matchups this weekend. Atlanta United, CF Montreal. Atlanta United is a dog at a +185. CF Montreal favored at a +129. Your draw is a plus 262. And obviously, the bigger question in all of this is what's the lineup going to look like? And with who played however the heck many minutes in the midweek, do you ride hot hands and you have them in the lineups? So Jamal had the PK goal. Here's the lineup as it started. So Brooks on the left, we're still monitoring, and we'll find out more today, perhaps on the recovery of Pedro Amador. Brooks on the left, played the full 90. Ronald, Stian, Nick Sesic. So you're probably going to see a backline of Brooks, Mihai, Stian, and Ronald. That would be my guess. Then Bart, who played the full, Bart played 85, I want to say, before he was pulled late. Yeah, 85 minutes, 50 touches, 89% passing on 44 attempts. All 3 long balls on the day for Bart. 1 every duel, 2 clears, a pick, and a tackle for Bart. You're starting Bart. The other question, maybe it's Tristan instead of Will Riley. Then then the question is up top. You're starting Midanchuk. Luke Brennan was causing havoc on the left-hand side. The Luke Brennan, Efren Morales get-togethers should be fun at Stade Saputo. Jamal up top, but the questions are going to be Miggy, Latelot, Jamal, Luke. What's it look like? That's the big question coming forward. And obviously, you're going to have Brad, the Hamburglar, taking things over. Jaden Hibbert punched an 8.3. He and Saba had the highest rating on the day, but 9 saves on the night for Jaden Hibbert. You're going up against CF Montreal. Prince Owusu has 11 of their 23 goals this year. I can make it as simplistic as humanly possible. You stop Owusu, you stop Montreal. That's fairly simplistic. So obviously there's a little more that's going to go into that. Revs in DC. Revs are a minus 133. DC's a plus 328. Your draw is a plus 292. Revs can make another statement here. I've got Carlos Heel on my fantasy team, and I've captained him, and I'm starting him. Philadelphia, Toronto. Philadelphia minus 217. Your draw is a plus 349. And Toronto is a plus 526 now. A plus 526. That's a big margin, kids. Georgi Mihailovic's deal was officially official yesterday, and that is now in the barn, good to go. $8 million plus another if add-ons are met. The league announced the key dates for the playoffs. That came out this morning, or actually they came out yesterday. Decision day, October 18. Wild card matches on the 22nd of October. Playoff round 1 best of 3 is October 24 through November 9. Week off, November 22 and 23 are your conference semis, conference finals, the 29th and 30th. MLS Cup on Saturday, December 6th. And so those are the playoff dates as we look at our viewing habits here this morning. So I'm trying to see if the broadcast teams are announced, if they're up and running. And it looks like nothing has been put on the board for the announced teams that are laid out for us today. So, and I'm sure it'll happen like 11:05, 11:10, or 10 minutes after we're done. You'll get your announced teams for the matchups this weekend. What we will do is we will go over the referee assignments after we go through the juice boxes in Major League Soccer. And 8:40 start, Copa Tejas, Los Verdes, Austin FC, and Houston Dynamo. Austin FC favored at a plus 110, draws a plus 236, Dynamo's a plus 245. Chicago and LAFC at the Spaceship in downtown Chicago, Fire a plus 144, draws a plus 252, LAFC's a plus 173. Dallas hosting Portland, Marco Farfan out. Lucho Acosta looks like he's gone too. Dallas a plus 104 for Eric Quill. Draws a plus 262. Portland a plus 229. Still no word on Santi Moreno. He is still unexcused absence, according to Ned Grabavoy. St. Louis City and Nashville. We mentioned that one with Tyler. St. Louis City a plus 223. Draws a plus 271. Nashville a plus 108. 8:55 as part of the matchups that are over on free TV as well. It is Sporting Kansas City and San Diego. Sporting is a plus 240 for Carrie Z. Draws a plus 288. San Diego FC is a minus 105. San Jose at 1040, and Vancouver. They'll roll out Thomas Mueller. To what extent, we don't know. Maybe he'll just sit on the sidelines and wave in San Jose at PayPal Park at a plus 123. Vancouver, a plus 179. Your draws a plus 286. Sunday is action. 3 6 o'clock starts. So 3 6-10s. FC Cincinnati, a minus 135. Hosting Charlotte, who's a plus 348. Draws a plus 282. Minnesota, minus 161. Hosting Colorado at a plus 382. Draws a plus 313. It's changing in front of me as we go. Red Bulls at 610, hosting RSL at a plus 110. RSL's a plus 218. Draw is a plus 268. 8:10. It is Purple Team and Messi and Friends. That's probably Sunday Night Soccer at a minus 130. Orlando City favored. Still don't know the overall health of Lionel Messi and having a lot of the big guns playing in the midweek. How much does Inter Miami rotate? Purple Team a minus 130, draws a plus 307. Messi and Friends are a plus 292 on the road. And at 10:10, LAG and Seattle Sounders, LAG's a plus 131, draws a plus 181, and your draw is a plus 268. So those are your numbers in Major League Soccer for the weekend. And let's see. So match day 28. Here we go. So we have the assignments for match day 28 when it comes to our officials. Stade Saputo. Rosendo Mendoza is the man in the middle. So let's find out what's going on with Rosendo Mendoza. So who scored Major League Soccer referee stats? All right. So Rosendo Mendoza is 16 matches. He has been in the middle. 28.5 fouls per game on average, which puts him 6th, but 3rd if you exclude individuals who have only been a center ref once. Dopka Ovalle and Michael Venn have only had one match in the middle. Eligio Adeguin, 3 in the middle, 30.67. Remy Touchon, 5 in the middle, 30.4. Then you have Rosendo Mendoza, 28.5 fouls per match on average so far this season in Major League Soccer. Fouls per tackle, 0.89. Penalties per game, 0.38. So he's 14th, so middle of the pack. Yellows per game, 4.94. So that puts Rosendo Mendoza 8th. 79 yellow cards in 16 matches. So he's not afraid to flash the yellow. Yellows per match, 8th in Major League Soccer, and basically 3rd of individuals who have called more than one match in the middle. So he flashes a lot of yellows, calls a lot of fouls. 28.5 on average, puts him top 5. Like I said, excluding individuals who've only called one match in the middle. Remy Touchon, 28.5 fouls per match, 4.94 yellows, 79 yellow cards, which puts him 2nd in the league. Obviously, bulk will boost those numbers behind Guido Gonzalez Jr., and he is only 2 yellow cards behind Guido Gonzalez Jr., who has called 3 more matches. Also, Rosendo Mendoza, 2nd in red cards this year. Victor Rivas is 1st with 7. Rosendo Mendoza has 5. So Rosendo Mendoza calls a lot of fouls, gives a lot of yellows, and is 2nd in the league so far this season on red cards given total. He's given 5, 2 behind Victor Rivas. So a lot of fouls, a lot of cards, not afraid to flash the yellow. 5 reds in 16 matches this year for Rosendo Mendoza, the man in the middle for Atlanta United and CF Montreal. Chris Wadham, Gerard Cartier-Lebuy, Matthew Soiree are your ARs and your 4th. Ismail Elfath is your VAR. Tom Supple is also upstairs. Revs in DC, Drew Fisher in the middle. Michael Barwagon, Liaz Arfa, John Freeman, your ARs in your fourth. Kevin Terry Jr., Fabio Tovar are upstairs. NYC and crew, Sergi Boyko, the man in the middle. Kevin Klinger, Eric Weisbrod, Marcos de Oliveira are your ARs in your fourth. Michael Radchuk, Ian McKay are upstairs. Philadelphia, Toronto, Tori Penso in the middle. Brooke Mayo, Matthew Nelson, Luis Diego Arroyo, your ARs in your fourth. Jorge Gonzalez and TJ Zablocki are upstairs. Austin and Houston, Alexis De Silva, man in the middle. Adam Garner, Tyler Y. Rostick, Jair Marufo is your fourth. David Berry and Jeff Mushik are upstairs. Chicago and LAFC, Ricardo Montero Araya in the middle. Jason White, Walt Heatherly, Muhammad Hassan, your ARs in your fourth. Edvin Jurasevich and Mark Allerton are upstairs. FCD in Portland, Malik Badawi, man in the middle. Mike Nickerson, Diego Blas, Fotis Bazakos, your ARs in your fourth. JC Rivero, Joseph Batko upstairs. All caps, Nashville for Tyler Terrens. Lorenzo Hernandez in the middle. Kyle Atkins, Eduardo Jeff, and Joshua Encarnacion, your ARs in your fourth. Soren Stoichka, Joshua Patlak are upstairs. Sporting in San Diego, Pierre-Luc Lozier's in the middle. Jeffrey Greason, Justin Howard, Christian Campo Hernandez, your ARs in your fourth. Sean Tahini and Robert Schapp are upstairs. San Jose and Vancouver, Timothy Ford in the middle for that one. Chris Elliott, Nick Balser, Malik Badawi, your ARs in your fourth. Jorge Gonzalez, TJ Zablocki are upstairs. Cincinnati and Charlotte, Philip Dujich, man in the middle. Ryan Graves, Andrew Bigelow, Sergei Demyanchuk, your ARs in your fourth. Fotis Bazakis and Craig Lowry are upstairs. Red Bulls and Real Salt Lake, Ricardo Fierro in the middle. Adam Winkowski, Zeno Cho, Marcus de Oliveira, your ARs in your fourth. Eunice Marakchi and Mike Kempminer are upstairs. Minnesota, Colorado, Greg Dopka in the middle. Corey Parker, Catherine Nesbitt, Chris Penso, your ARs in your fourth. JC Rivero, Tom Supple are upstairs. Armando Villarreal gets the purple team and Messi and friends. Cameron Blanchard, Jeremy Hansen, Rubiel Vasquez, your ARs in your fourth. Edvin Jurasevich, Jonathan Johnson are upstairs. LAG in Seattle and Carson. Alan Chapman, the man in the middle. Corey Rockwell, Felicia Mariscal, Victor Rivas, your ARs in your fourth. Eunice Marakchi and Mike Kampmeinert are upstairs. Those are your rundowns of all the things when it comes to your assignments for pro on the weekend. So we'll keep an eye on all of that. All right, so gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and we will get you out of here for a week. Keeping an eye on what's going on with Crystal Palace and the decision with Cass. Obviously, we got to keep an eye on that. So it looks like Ethan Nwaneri signed a new long-term deal at Arsenal, and he's got the picture where he's got hands on shoulders. Ethan Nwaneri's looking into the camera, contract underneath him, pen over the contract, not making contact, so it's obviously official. Oliver Glasner discusses the transfer speculation around Eze and Gahey as they play in the Community Shield on Sunday. Eze is going to play. Mark is going to play. Mark is going to captain. So that's Oliver Glasner. That's what he says. A new 5-year deal for Ethan Nwaneri, tying him down, the 18-year-old, 9 goals in 37 appearances and 11 starts last year. Manchester City, on the women's side, have announced Eartha Cummings signing from Rosengard, played for Bristol City, Charlton, and Liverpool, won the Swedish title last year. Manchester United at least have completed their revamp of the first team building at Carrington. Looks pretty snazzy. And Premier League has ended their partnership with Stonewall. That happened this morning. Let's see. Will Unwin required reading The Guardian about Sheffield Wednesday. And so at the King Power, are due to show their disdain for the ownership leaving their seats empty for the first 5 minutes and covering the area with a large anti-Chansiri banner. Plane is scheduled for a flyover with a further message. Vitor Rice on the move at Manchester City, joining Girona on a season-long loan. And that is, let's see, that's early news there. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Okay, 3 hours ago, according to Ed Aarons, a delegation from Crystal Palace spent the morning presenting their appeal to CAS for the club to be reinstated into the Europa League. Once again, UEFA demoted Palace, deemed in breach of the regulations, multi-club ownership. Decision on the club's chair, Steve Parrish, described one of the greatest injustices in the history of European football, end quote. Part of the Palace delegation that arrived at CAS headquarters in Lausanne early Friday morning understood to have argued Palace had been singled out by UEFA and that its rules had not been applied consistently. John Texter shares in Palace and Lyon, who also qualified for Europa, but he has since sold that 43% stake in the Premier League club to Woody Johnson for like $195. Palace will continue to present their case this afternoon. Decision from CAS not expected until Monday. FA Cup winners set to face Liverpool in Community Shield Sunday at Wembley. Nottingham Forest expected to be promoted to the Europa if the appeal fails. So you have that as a part of all of the news. Talk Sport interview with Hannah Hampton during the final shootout against Spain. Hampton revealed she'd seen that the Spanish keeper Kata Call had written notes about England's penalty takers on her water bottle. Hampton's response chucked Call's bottle into the crowd. So Hannah Hampton saw the notes, chucked the water bottle. Let's see. So I think that's all right. So yeah, Ethan Wanyeri was the biggest piece of news coming out of the early transfer stuff this morning. Looks like you're going to get a new 3D involving Drew and the Benjamin Seshko news. So keep an ear out for that. So the Benjamin Seshko update, it is there. So Seshko's undergoing a medical for the £74 million deal agreed. Let's see. Liverpool handed a boost for Isak move, having agreed to a sale of Darwin Nunez. Arsenal set to make a bid for Eze after the Rodrigo swap deal was rejected. Newcastle are considering Porto's striker Samu after missing out on Benjamin Seshko. For those of you that got to see the Club World Cup here in Atlanta, you got to see Samu for front and center. Samu could be a very impactful power forward, but we did see his predisposition to want to fall down, go boom. So for those that might remember Messi and friends in Porto and Club World Cup, you saw Samu. Guy went down a little too easily, got frustrated a little too easily too. So that's what Newcastle looks like they're considering as a make good since they didn't get in Benjamin Seshko. Arthur Masuaku close to a Premier League return, joining Sunderland on a 2, according to Fabrizio Romano, 6 years at West Ham, leaving in 2022. Newcastle may circle back to Johan Vissa, £25 million bid rejected earlier in the window, preparing to lose Isak. The Brentford folks have now earmarked Bournemouth's Dango Ouattara as a placement for Brian Mbeumo. Wissa wants to leave and join Newcastle, ready to travel. And the David Ornstein, following up on the information on Samu and Porto and Newcastle, 27 goals, 45 appearances, debut season. No guarantee the move will happen. Newcastle wants to have options in case Isak leaves for Liverpool. So keep an eye on that. Aston Villa signed Nice striker Evan Gesson. Initial fee 23.5, rising to 28 with add-on. Signed a contract until 2030. Manchester United want £50 million to sell Garnacho this summer. Blues want Garnacho and Xavi Simon before the window closes. United and Chelsea have a good relationship. We mentioned Vitor Reis and Girona going to be there for the entire season. Barcelona have stripped Marc-Andre ter Stegen of its captaincy over the medical dispute. Jason mentioned this in the Morning Espresso presented by our friends at Oglethorpe University. Barca want ter Stegen to sign a consent form permitting the club to sign him off as a long-term injury in order to keep the keeper from so they can exclude him from salary registration. Club signed Joan Garcia from Espanyol last month. Club likely expecting to sell ter Stegen to make space in their wage bill for Garcia and Marcus Rashford. So Barca wants ter Stegen to sign a consent form to sign him off as a long-term injury. Ter Stegen's like, screw that. Not going to happen. And so he's been stripped of his captaincy. And so that's a couple of pieces of news from our friends at the Independent. And let's get into, let's see. So what is Ornstein saying? Let me go to the Athletic and see if there's anything involving anything and everything attached to Ornstein. Okay, so updates. David Ornstein and Athletic Insiders. All right, so let's go to the bottom. We mentioned Samu. We mentioned Garnacho. Agreement with Seshko. That happened in the last hour. Villarreal early this morning completed the signing of Thomas Partey, a 2-year deal, initial 1 year deal with the option of another 12 months. So that is what you're looking at with that. Remember, EFL Championship starts this weekend. Keep an eye out on, once again, Sheffield Wednesday. Keep an eye out on that, what the player makeup looks like, what the roster looks like, and what the protest looks like. So keep an eye on that. Bayern Munich have inquired about Nico Jackson, valued at $48 million, and these are all in pounds unless I tell you otherwise. Also a target for Newcastle. Isak is not going to play for the club preseason matches against Espanyol and Atletico Madrid this weekend amid uncertainty about his future and interest from Liverpool, 4-letter paper. Milan, interested in taking Rasmus Højlund from Manchester United, available for about $30 million. Milan are keen on a loan move, Gazzetta dello Sport. Spurs have had a £30 million bid for Nico Paz turned down by Como, who value him at $52 million. Villa rejected an £18 million offer from Everton for John McGinn, attracting interest from Newcastle. Al Nassr ready to meet Brentford's asking price for Johan Vissa. Once again, so it's a match race now. Al Nassr, Newcastle, Spurs, Vissa. Inigo Martinez set to cancel his contract with Barca, move on a free to Al Nassr. That might open up some space. Manchester City turned down an offer from Roma for Claudio Echeverri as they want to loan him to Girona, who are under the CFG umbrella. Preston North End close to completing a move for Spurs 21-year-old attacking midfielder Alfie Devine. Coventry City want $15 million for their Dutch right back Milan van Ewijk. Wolves and Wolfsburg among the clubs keen on signing the 24-year-old. Trying to see if there's anything with big names going on in the lower divisions. Jeff Hendrick looks like he might be signed to Wigan. And I think that is it for the gossip and the rumor and the innuendo. Once again, keep an eye on what's going on with Sheffield Wednesday. Keep an eye on what's going on at Crystal Palace. And big article from the Times. They're confident. Martin Ziegler last night came out with an article. Crystal Palace is very confident that they have a powerful case. And we'll keep an eye on that today as Crystal Palace and Steve Parrish wrap up their testimony and pleading their case. Decision likely Monday from CAS, but that will continue to be bogged down in appeals and courts and what have you. Guarantee it. So let's see what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and then we'll get you out of here. All right. And we'll say hi to everybody and what is on everybody's mind. English Championship kicks off today. 2:30 BN and Espanyol. Turkish Super League, Gaziantep and Galatasaray at 2:30. You can get that at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. You can get all the BNs, Nuestro Tele, CDO, For the Fans, Teise, Gold TV, our buddy Nino Torres, Liga 1 Max Pro, Tigo Sports, and CATV have now been jumped in with live events into Fanatis as well. English Championship, 3 o'clock today, Birmingham City and Ipswich. Tom Brady gets his kickoff on CBS Sports Network. FS1, 11 o'clock, Tigres and Puebla. And it is also being simulcast on Fox Deportes and Universo. Femenil, 7 o'clock, Guadalajara, Cruz Azul, 7 o'clock, Amazon Prime, and WSL, Utah and Kansas City Current at 10. Golazo Network, Houston and Courage at 8. Courage yesterday ended their relationship with Sean Nayas. And so we'll find out what the latest is with North Carolina Courage and their coaching search and their coaching situation and why Sean was released in the manner that he was. Also, Paramount Plus, Houston and Courage simulcast on Golazo Network. That is today. Tomorrow, BN doubleheader, Polish League, 8:45 and 11:30. CBS Sports Network, Coventry City and Hull at 7:30. Newcastle, Atletico Madrid at 11. FS1, 8:45, Kansas City and San Diego. FS2, Canadian Premier, Pacific and Halifax at 6. Simulcast the Polish League on BN and Espanyol. Wolves and Celta de Vigo at 10 and a friendly. Fox Deportes, 2 friendlies, simulcasting Major League Soccer. Gold TV, Uruguayan Primera, 10 a.m., 2 p.m., Peru Primera, Universitario, and Sport Boys, 7:30. Nino, is going to be watching that. 2 to NA, doubleheader. Liga MX, 9 and 11. USL Championship at 6, Lexington and Phoenix. Everything on season pass for Major League Soccer. New York and Columbus is at Citi Field, by the way. MLS Next Pro, 4 matchups. OCB Chattanooga, Houston Real Monarchs, The Town, Vancouver, and Ventura County in Portland. ESPN Plus, Dutch Eredivisie, Bundesliga B, 3 international friendlies, USL Championship, USL League One. Fox Soccer Plus has the CPL at 5. Golazzo Network Leeds United Milan at 10. USL Championship doubleheader 8 and 11. Paramount Plus has 3, 6, 9, 10 matches in English Championship, 2 from League One. League 2 at 10 a.m., and you can catch up with the Nofo Brewing sponsored Walsall as they play Gillingham at 10 a.m. Scottish Premiership at 12:45, USL Championship 8 and 11. Women's side, NWSL, Gotham and Washington at noon, simulcast on ESPN Deportes. Northern Super League, 2 matches on the Plus. NWSL simulcast on ESPN Plus. Ion doubleheader National Women's Soccer League, 7:30 and 10. Orlando and Racing Louisville, San Diego, and Angel City. And that's just a small portion of the whole blanking thing. Thanks for another great week. It's been fun. Let me say hi to everybody before we get out of here. Lokeville, Abby, Pars. Question from Pars. Good question. How much of it goes to the league, and will they care to enter the lawsuit? I don't know if they'll care to enter the lawsuit. They may have to as a partner. But considering I think there's a percentage, but it's not a large percentage. It might be like 10% or something like that. But still, the idea that Eagle / Botafogo owes Atlanta United $30 million, as Almada was a property of the league. Pars, I knew where you were going with that question. Christopher Abel wants Parkey to come back out of retirement to help out at center back. Alex, good morning. Morning Ropes. Yes, Parkey would pay all of his team's transfer fees. He absolutely would. Morning Ropes and morning Christopher. We simulated him for F4 times 25. Morning Pars, morning Alex, morning Abby, and thanks to all of y'all. So thanks to all of you who are in the Twitch pitch. It's just as important that you watch and you listen live when you do. You comment, you're a part of the community, whether you comment or not. And just the fact that you're here Monday through Friday with us as we tour everything going on in the world of soccer, it's always big, and we're glad that you are with us. So once again, tonight, 6:30 pregame, Atlanta United 2, Toronto FC 2, soccerdownhere.mixler.com, and also at soccerdownhere.net. You can listen either one of those 2 ways. We'll take you through MLS Next Pro pregame and halftime. You'll hear from Ronan Wynn. You'll hear from Jose Silva, and we'll get you ready for the match. 7:03 kick. You can watch the video version. You watch the video side of things at MLS Next Pro from MLS Next Pro. By the way, St. Louis City 2's unbeaten run is now at 11. MLSNextPro.com has the matchup Toronto FC 2 and Atlanta United 2 tonight. But you get to listen to the match with me on the call, 6:30 pregame, 7:03 kick. That's the beginning of a very, very busy weekend across the board. Thanks to Tyler Terrence. Thanks to Tom Mayo. Thanks to Michael Parker. Thanks to all y'all. And I think next week we're getting Marcelo Balboa in the 10 o'clock slot. His jersey's being retired in Colorado. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And thanks to Kirk Reynolds and everybody at Major League Soccer for letting us know what's going on every single week in that time slot at 10 o'clock on Friday mornings. For everybody here at SDH, thanks for dropping by. Be safe, stay cool, stay dry, and we'll catch up with you throughout the weekend. Mucho Platiel played safe since it's the end of the week. We say goodbye this way. We'll catch up with you soon. See you tonight.
The war was on. The keys on the typewriter had sharp points that kept sticking into our fingers. The dictating equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like a cattle prod. Out in the warehouse, the trucks kept banging into the docks, not even thinking about stopping. Oh, our frail bodies were strapped to the chairs, and our chairs were chained to the desks. Our pleas for justice were ignored, and the end seemed near. But we busted our slave drivers' little bitty balls. We've charged out of their brick fortress. The streets are